Have you ever wondered how ancient astrology actually measured a planet's power? It's not just about a planet being in a good sign or a bad sign. Turns out there's this incredibly precise system at play. So let's dive right in.
So, what is a planet's superpower? Well, in Vedic astrology, it really comes down to two big ideas: exaltation, which is when a planet is basically at its absolute peak performance, and debilitation, which is when it finds itself in let's say, a much more challenging environment. And this idea of peak power is what we call exaltation. It's where a planet can just truly shine. Now, the flip side of that is debilitation. And you can think of that as a really tough spot where it's just harder for a planet to do its thing effectively. Exaltation, or ucha as it's known in Sanskrit, isn't just some general good vibe. Nope. It points to a very, very specific degree in the zodiac where a planet is said to express its absolute highest, most powerful qualities. I mean, think of it as a planet's throne room. And this is the first thing that you really have to get your head around. We are not talking about a planet being strong throughout an entire 30-degree sign. The real magic, the real power, is pinpointed to one single perfect degree. Precision here is literally everything. So that begs the question, right? Why? Why does this one single degree make such a huge, dramatic difference in a planet's power? Let's take a look. I absolutely love this analogy from the source material. It just perfectly shows that even a so-called good sign, a positive environment, can have its weak spots, and on the flip side, a really challenging sign can have this hidden point of just supreme excellence. And this one, wow, this one just brilliantly illustrates the whole idea. It really is like a chemical titration in a science lab. The change isn't slow or gradual, it's sudden and it's dramatic. A planet's power can flip, just like that, the moment it hits that exact degree. One tiny drop, and the whole color changes. Now check this out. This chart really puts it into perspective. This is based on a classical strength measurement system. So a planet in an enemy sign, it has a strength of about 3.75. Okay. At its deepest point of weakness or debilitation, it drops to 0. But at its peak exaltation point, whoa, it skyrockets all the way to 60. That's not just a little bump, that is a massive leap in power. Okay, so enough theory. How does this actually play out in real life? Let's look at a case study. What happens with the fiery planet Mars when it moves through the super disciplined sign of Capricorn? So you've got Mars, right? It's all about raw action, energy, pure initiative. And then you've got Capricorn, ruled by Saturn, which is all about structure, discipline, and thinking long-term. So when Mars enters Capricorn, its fiery energy doesn't get put out. Instead, it gets funneled into this incredibly focused, strategic, and highly effective power. And if we look ahead to the 2026 transit, we can see the key dates to watch. Mars enters Capricorn on January 16th, but the real peak power, that exact exaltation at 28 degrees, that happens on February 20th and 21st. And you'll also notice there's a caution window around the eclipse there, which is definitely something to keep in mind. And this isn't some new idea. Ancient texts like the Flauta Deepika are super clear about what happens. An exalted Mars brings real, tangible success, victory, buying property, earning respect. The planet's raw energy literally turns into a force for major life accomplishments. So the big question is, how can you use this energy? Well, this is a prime time for things like launching new career projects, buying property or a car, starting a new fitness plan, or stepping into a leadership role. The focus here is all on building something real and something that lasts.
But, and this is a big but, there are also traps you want to avoid. Remember Saturn's influence? This is not the time for impulsive moves or expecting things to happen overnight. It's really important to avoid pointless fights, work with patience, and definitely steer clear of launching anything huge during that eclipse window.
Okay, so that's what happens at peak strength. But what about the total opposite? What if a planet is in debilitation, its absolute weakest point? Is that like a life sentence of weakness? Well, the answer is a lot more interesting than you might think. This is such a key question to ask, because the simple good versus bad way of looking at things, it just doesn't capture the incredible subtlety of Vedic astrology. So on one side, you have debilitation, where a planet's strength is basically at 0. But Vedic astrology has this amazing concept called Nicha Bhanga, which means cancellation of debilitation. Certain other planetary placements can come along and completely reverse the weakness, often turning it into a really unique and powerful kind of strength.
So, after all of that, what's the big takeaway? How should you be thinking about your own planet's strength? Let's break it down.
First thing, it's not a simple game of good versus bad. Gotta get that out of your head. Second, remember that peak strength is incredibly precise. It's all about that 1 degree. Third, the sign itself provides the whole environment that shapes how a planet gets to express itself. And finally, and this is a big one, never ever write off a weak planet. Its challenges might just be hiding a totally unique kind of power.
And that really just leaves us with one final thought to chew on. We all have these placements in our own charts. So the real question for you is this: what if your greatest strength, your true superpower, lies hidden, just waiting to be unlocked, in your planet's most perfect, exalted degree?